Hey guys, and welcome back to Thursdays on my channel. It's the day of the week that I like to talk about geeky things and a little thing I like to call geek talk. So I wanted to celebrate my love for Star Wars this week because I got to see The Force Awakens recently. FYI, I filmed this in December, so hey, I did. I got to see The Last Jedi and I personally really loved it, and I know that there are some people out there that really don't. So to celebrate my love for Star Wars and to celebrate the fact that I love The Last Jedi and some people don't, I'm going to tell you guys the top 5 things I hate about Star Wars. Because why not? Number 1, Jar Jar Binks. Just in general, just Jar Jar Binks. I have never truly met somebody who like absolutely just outright loves Jar Jar Binks. I've met people who are like, he's fine, like I don't care. But I found Jar Jar Binks to be incredibly annoying. He doesn't bring anything to the story, not really at least. I mean, there are a couple of things that he does that helps them along the way, but for the most part, he's more of a nuisance than anything, and he brings absolutely nothing to the story. So he was literally just put into The Phantom Menace and The Attack of the Clones, and like you see him in Revenge of the Sith, but whatever, it's not even the whole whatever, moving on. Like he was only just put there to be a comic relief, where that wasn't even really all that necessary, because I felt like The Phantom Menace, while boring, The Phantom Menace kind of stood on its own and didn't really need that character to tell any comedic stories at all. Oh. Jar Jar Binks, I think, is probably the most hated character in all of Star Wars. So I am not alone in my hate for Jar Jar Binks. So let me know in the comments below how you feel about Jar Jar Binks, because I would love to meet somebody who like legitimately goes, no, seriously though, Jar Jar Binks is my favorite Star Wars character. I would love to meet that person, and I would love to get inside their head, because I definitely do not feel the same way. Number 4 on my list is part of that bridge between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, in the sense that Leia can remember her real mother even though her real mother died in childbirth. Luke asks Leia in Return of the Jedi if she remembers her real mother, and Leia says that she does. She was very beautiful, but very sad. And of course I'd be sad too if my husband just tried to kill me, and I was now on a ship giving birth to twins, not knowing if my husband is even still alive at this point in time, as the guy who followed me to kill him is standing by my bedside. So there's that. A lot of people explain this away as saying that Leia is just her version of the Force, which I argue because that we've never seen any indication that that's how the Force even works. We do know that Leia can sense other people. She could sense Luke when he was hanging from Cloud City. You know, she always knew that Luke was her brother. That's another one. This is just an honorary mention. Leia always knew that Luke was her brother, yet she made out with him. I mean, to get back at Han, you know, to make Han feel jealous or whatever, but like, would you make out with your brother just to make the guy you like jealous? Because I wouldn't even make out with a dude who's like my brother to make the guy that I like jealous. Anyway, moving on. So we have seen indications that she can sense certain things, certain relationships. However, there has never been anything about the Force or about Leia that leads you to believe, or leads us to believe, that she could conjure up memories that don't exist for her. So the fact that she was only born for a few minutes prior to her mother dying, I have trouble accepting that argument as plausible, because we've never seen that. As Han said in The Force Awakens, that's not how the Force works. Number 3 on my list is the very contrived Force love story between Anakin and Padme. The biggest reason I didn't like this love story would, number 1, obviously being that they had no actual chemistry. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman did not have any chemistry, really. So it was hard to buy that relationship, but I think the other part of it too, the bigger piece of it for me, I think, was actually that they just had so much story to tell in Attack of the Clones that there was no time or space for a love story, and so it ended up being, well, we gotta make them fall in love, so it was almost like the love story was almost an afterthought, even though it was like the main driving force of the film. It almost felt like it was an afterthought because it was like, well, we gotta get them to fall in love. So let's add this scene where they are being cute with one another in a field. Then, you know, they can roll around and start falling in love. Things like that, where I just felt like from the start of Attack of the Clones, where she still looks at him as little tiny baby Annie, all the way to when she professes her love to him, there just wasn't, I mean, I'm sure there was enough time in like Star Wars world, because I'm sure it did not last only, you know, an hour and a half. But at the same time, I felt like for us, for the audience, it just wasn't enough time to be able to tell that story effectively. You almost should have gone, he almost should have just cast Hayden Christensen to start, had Anakin be a little bit older, and then have there be something between them in the first episode, in episode 1, and then have that evolve in episode 2, and have a 2-movie story arc, you know, and have that be kind of the thing. I think it would have worked a lot better, and I feel like even though the chemistry wasn't always quite right there, and the writing wasn't all that great, which we're getting to, that there is that possibility that at least it would have felt less rushed and maybe less forced because of that. So I don't know. But yeah, Anakin and Padme's love story felt super rushed. I actually liked it when I was a kid, or a teenager when that came out, but I do not appreciate it as an adult who studied film criticism, and I probably wouldn't have appreciated it even just as an adult who didn't study film criticism, because it's not an unusual thing to dislike. So moving on. Number 2 on my list, I told you we were gonna get to it, but that is the really terrible writing of the prequels. The dialogue in the prequels was probably one of the worst dialogues in movies other than The Room, but that is a whole different video to talk about The Room. Oh gosh. Okay. Maybe that's something I'll talk about in a future Thursday video. The way they spoke, and I get that he was trying to make it seem more elegant, seem more, you know, old world, but instead of sounding like Shakespeare, it just sounded like gibberish to me in a lot of situations. It just felt very, very forced and very, very just wrong. It was like, you know, those people who try to sound smart by using big words and have no idea what they're actually saying when they use those big words. I mean, I do that too sometimes by accident just because I say stupid things. But like, there are people who like consciously make the effort to say big words so they sound smart, but they actually sound dumb because they don't know how to use them properly. That's how I felt about the prequel dialogue, and it was really unfortunate because the prequels themselves, the story itself was not a bad story. It's actually a pretty good story. It's just the execution wasn't great, and the biggest piece of that was the dialogue and how that was written. There's a lot more, but that's a big piece of it. And number 1, my biggest pet peeve about Star Wars, the number 1 thing I hate about Star Wars, and it makes me angry every time I see this movie, every time I see it, but that is the fact that Padme loses the will to live. And this is how we lose Padme. I think that this was the worst idea ever. I am gonna get passionate because this was terrible. When we first meet Padme, she is a strong-willed person. She's the Queen of Naboo. Granted, we don't really know that Padme is Queen Amidala, but at the same time, she's the Queen of Naboo. She was the youngest person to ever be elected Queen of Naboo, and she continued to serve on the Senate because the new Queen asked her to. She's obviously very intelligent. She's obviously very strong-willed. She's obviously just a very strong person. Plus, she just gave birth to twins. Plus, she knows, she even tells Obi-Wan, she knows that there is still good in Anakin. Why on earth would you lose the will to live if all of these things were true about you? To me, it felt like George Lucas was like, okay, shoot, we gotta kill off Padme. Well, we forgot to do that, so let's do that. Much like I talked about in a couple of other things, it felt like an afterthought. It felt like something that he just went, oh crap, that's a thing we need to do. Ugh! And just did it. And I felt like it was one of the worst ways to kill off a character, especially someone as cool as Padme. I love Padme. She's my favorite character in the prequels, and I adore her tremendously. So those are my top 5 reasons why I hate Star Wars. Really, I do love Star Wars. It's one of my favorite franchises in history, and I can't wait for the next installment, which of course is gonna be the Han Solo movie, so I'm super excited about that. Let me know in the comments below what you hate about Star Wars. Get in on this fun stuff, and I will see you guys all next week if you're here for something geek, but if you're here for all things geeky, I'll see you tomorrow with another random whatever I decide to put up video. Anyway, I will see you guys all either tomorrow or next week. Bye!